Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a second episode of my podcast. It's all about leadership, technology, how things are evolving. And I'm hoping that you enjoyed the last episode and you are excited about this episode because I'm excited. Right now, I have a very special guest that who I met in my interaction with a lot of things through CNCF, AWS, and I'm so excited to have Julia here to talk about her journey and all of the things that she's doing in the community. So, welcome and thank you for being here, Julia. How's everything?
Thank you, Ahmed. Everything is great. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Like I told you, you started this podcast, and I was super excited when you invited me. And I'm glad, we were able to make this happen with so much going on. Our trips, we're always traveling and organizing things. But I'm really, really glad to be here.
That's amazing. And yeah, we met in multiple events, like in
Yeah.
CNCF, AWS, different events all over the place. And we organize many things together. But I would love to know a bit of your history and what led you to cloud native? Like what triggered your I want to be there. I want to do more for that community. What is the trigger about this?
So it was actually by chance that I ended up in the cloud native space. A lot of people probably listening to the podcast don't know a lot about my journey, but I come from a non-technical background, and I decided to do a coding bootcamp online for free in during the pandemic, and mostly for software development. And because I was networking a lot, meeting people online on Twitter, and then going to events, I ended up meeting someone that gave me a ticket to go to KubeCon in Detroit. So KubeCon in 2022, the KubeCon NA. Yeah, and that was when it opened the doors for me into the cloud native space. I didn't know what Kubernetes was when I went to that KubeCon. I was feeling very lost, and it was very overwhelming as well. But I saw that there was a lot more than just software development, full stack or backend, front end. There is cloud native, and there is a huge community there. And I saw so many people passionate about this, and I decided I want to get more involved. And from there, I started getting more involved into in-person events, events online, also contributing a lot to open source, doing a lot to the community, that I ended up becoming a CNCF ambassador, and also an AWS hero, which is part of cloud, but different a different organization, I would say.
That's really inspiring. So for someone who coming from a different background to the industry, and this industry actually, so I've been here for a while, just like we all been there. We're like, hey, what's Kubernetes? What's this? What's that? But in the past few recent years, you kind of can tell the industry is moving super fast. The acceleration and the
Yes.
cycle is getting really out of date. I remember back in the day, it was maybe take 20 years for something to mature, then tens
Mhm.
and fives and twos and ones, and it's keep rapiding. So my question to you, from that perspective, and since you've been in the community and you've been in the cloud native space, what are the challenges that really come to leaders when they are trying to drive innovation, specifically in the cloud native space? It's really accelerating too fast. If I look at the CNCF landscape, you kind of see this was few projects in a few years back. Now it's hundreds of projects. So how do you think this becoming a challenges for leaders when they try to drive innovation in their organization from your perspective?
Yeah, so I would say what you said, like keeping up with these rapid technological changes. Every day there is something new, while ensuring that their teams, they don't get overwhelmed, because it's so easy. You see something coming, tomorrow, and you want to learn, you want to jump on that bandwagon, and there are so many things, especially with AI now, that we can get overwhelmed. And leaders, they need to tell people like, hey, slow down, you don't need to learn everything. And also I would say help them prioritize things and avoid burnout, because burnout is very easy. So prioritizing means telling your team to keep learning. So continuous learning is very important, but also funding for their teams to go to events like KCD, also KubeCon, investing in developer experience and certifications, allowing teams to contribute to open source, which usually it's something that people do on their free time, but it would be great for teams to do what during their work time. So all of that is part of what a leader should do to help, their team keep the pace of all these technological advancement, I would say.
That's a very good insight. So that actually like make me think like what are the right metrics that from your perspective on what you have seen with different organizations on balancing between like the technical excellence and the innovation, because it's kind of hard like when we say like there's a lot of things coming, I want to be at like a level where like I'm really on top of the market, on top of the tooling, but I also want to make sure that I deliver value and a business impact. So how you really balance between these two things in your perspective in organizations that you have worked in, like what do you think is the right advice for people to think about it?
So it's hard a lot of times to prove the business value of all these cloud native technologies. But I would say, you invest in time, in training, and in infrastructure, and you need to see the return somehow. I would say, KPIs is seeing how many, how much are you delivering. You invest in that, and how much your team is delivering in a specific amount of time. Also customer satisfaction, if the application, all the functionalities are being good to the customer, which ultimately that's the goal of all the companies, to satisfy the customer. So it's very important to tie technology to the business. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you can't justify the investment in technology. And cloud native is about that, using new technologies, Kubernetes, and so many new things. But you need to justify that. So leaders, a lot of times, they forget to talk business. They focus only on, technical things. And a lot of times, C-level people, they don't speak technical language. So you really need to explain and break down into business language.
That's actually a very interesting point. Like I have been in different spectrums where like it's there's always like you have to explain things, you have to like really balance between what's matter. The language you might be talking about the same topic but different audience, you have to shape it. The one thing that I learned during
Mm-hmm.
like me presenting is like know your audience, like understand what they are
Yes.
looking for, because the same topic is relevant. However, everyone is looking for a different set of rules. So like sometimes business leaders look for ROI, other leaders look for technical excellence. So how you shape this together. This is actually a great insight. And like one of the topics that, I want to talk with you about is diversity and inclusion in the cloud native community in general. And I want to start by asking you, why do you think diversity is critical in the cloud native innovation? Like how this is important to you and the community as you have experienced that.
So cloud native environments, they are complex and challenging. They scale fast, and you need to be on top of things. And it really requires innovative thinking and different perspectives, because people from different places, different backgrounds, they bring different ideas. So one person may not have an idea that someone from another country might have, and they approach problems with different angles. We see that, even like people from different sex, or different ages, that's why I think diversity is so important. And another thing why the diversity is important is because we want technology to be more inclusive and as accessible. Sorry. So people that don't hear well or can't read, can't see, they also need to have access to technology. And people that suffer from these things, if they are the ones that build the technology, they can add their inputs. And so all of this is diversity. We a lot of times tend to think diversity is just one thing, but no, diverse is there is a whole spectrum of diversity. And everything, only adds, only improves technology, I would say.
Yeah, like you nailed it. I think like one of the key points that I have seen recently in in the was in the CNCF ecosystems, that like how people actually contributed to create a platforms to make like transcript like available
Mm-hmm.
for people to look at. And it's important to understand like that diversity is not just about like gender, or it's about country, or it's about like religion. It's more about like the
Yes.
entire thing. It's like what is diversity mean to people from your perspective might be something different from other people. So in that perspective, where do you think we still have challenges for specific underrepresented groups in that tech
Mhm.
community? Like, do you think like that still exists, or you think like we are already over it and we become a better inclusive community?
So I think we're on the right path. Organizations, foundations like the CNCF, they're doing a great job, but there are still a lot of challenges. I can say that because I come from Brazil, so I'm Latina, and I live in the US. And I see that the opportunities I have living in the US are very different from people living in Brazil. But we have the same skill set, same education, but they don't have the same opportunities. So this is one of the challenges. Access to opportunities is a big thing. When you have, you put both people on the same level, the one that lives in a certain country or is from a certain skin, has a certain skin color, they will have more access to opportunities than others. Also, access to mentorship or representation in leadership roles. So when you look at the C-suite in your company, try to see, like, is it diverse, or are those similar type of people? And I'm not gonna point my own company, but if you look at most companies, it's pretty much like everyone's the same in the C-level position. So these are some of the challenges. Also, I would say, like, implicit bias for hiring and promotion process. There are a lot of things that still need to be improved, but I would, at the same time, I would say we are on that path. People are using their voices to improve that and to fight and try to help others. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, like personally, that hits like a point with me, because like
Yeah.
I'm personally I'm an immigrant, and you already know, like I'm coming from a
Exactly.
different culture, and like there
Hmm.
are things that like you might be familiar with in different culture. Like I have seen stories about like a specific word might be offending to people but not to others,
Hmm.
understanding where they are coming
Yeah.
from, all of that kind of stuff. That brings a more of a world of like we really like don't differentiate. Like implicit bias is one of the things that we have seen like all of the time.
Mhm.
You didn't mean it, but it just like it happens because you have an assumption of specific culture or things like that, which is really like a good insight. So since we are on the topic, like have you seen, do you want to like tell me a success story or an initiative on that space that you have seen that made an impact? Would people follow, or like will people use? uh
Yeah. So, because we're talking about cloud native and because we are CNCF ambassadors, I want to say the CNCF has great initiatives. One of them I learned recently at the last KubeCon. Actually, it was the KubeCon in Europe from last year, which is the deaf and hard of hearing working group. So a lot of them are deaf, or they hear a little bit, but they need, for instance, live captions to be able to follow the talks at KubeCon. And at the beginning there wasn't that, and now they have that, and they have several initiatives and open source projects to help those groups. Also, every KubeCon, I love to see this, but there are peer group mentoring. There are like breakfast for attendees that identify as women or non-binary individuals. Also, something that I started doing as soon as I got into technology was contributing to localization projects. So all these big open source projects like Kubernetes and Backstage, etc., they have localization, so which is basically translation into other languages, because people from other countries, they are not as proficient and fluent in English, and they prefer to read documentation in their own language. Technology is already hard, so imagine reading in a language that you're not familiar with. And you can only do that by being fluent in that other language. So this is something that I really helped several open source projects, and the CNCF is great about that, the localizing their own open source projects. But and there are several other initiatives that the CNCF has, and other cloud organizations have as well, AWS and Google. I'm also a Google Women Tech Makers Ambassador, which is a program just for women, and we share insights, and there are mentorship programs in there. So organizations are really starting to be more aware of diversity and wanting to help. There is always more that we can do, but again, like I said, we are on that path. And I mean, I don't think we'll ever reach a point where we can say we don't have to worry about diversity anymore. This will always be an issue, a challenge that we need to work on every day.
Yeah, like these are like fantastic success stories, and like I've been impressed by like that initiative specifically and that working group when I seen it there, because like it just like
Mhm.
it consider a group of people who didn't have the opportunity, and now we're creating the
Yes.
opportunity for them. And I
Mhm.
have seen it actually in different occasions where like things like conferences and things like that make me like, okay, that we are in the tech community. But like where I have seen it and really made me have faith on like where we're going in things that like are for fun, or like a
Okay.
comedy show or things like that, and we really consider that
Yeah.
underrepresented group on like trying to be more inclusive around. From a tech community perspective, I think like I have seen different companies hire different people, provide the accommodations that fits to them, and this is actually great. And I completely agree with you. It's one thing that we always have to keep thinking about, but like never say like, hey, it's a done thing. It's always gonna
Mhm.
evolve over time, because like we have different criteria, different things. And the more that we do more in it, the more that we get better in it. So that's great. And that's a great segues into our next topic, which I want to bring up into like, so if we were looking at the cloud native ecosystem, we're seeing like a lot of projects and a lot of things, and we are looking at how diverse it is. We are trying to do a lot of things here. So if we are trying to shape, like you mentioned something about mentoring, and I know, for example, the Linux Foundation has done like a mentorship group where like you can mentor people in different technical
Yeah.
projects. But this is all a technical pieces and technical elements into it. From your perspective, what are the leadership traits we think that's essential for the next generation of cloud native leaders? What should we teach or tell people like, hey, you have to learn this? Because tech skills is important, but also the other soft skills is important, because that's what
Yeah.
shapes the community and shapes the leader characteristics.
So you just said it. I would say you need to learn how to learn. That's the first thing. And you need to be open to learn things every day. Because as we touched on, technology changes every day. So you need to adapt quickly and be willing to learn, be willing to pivot. Maybe today you're working with Kubernetes, but maybe tomorrow you're gonna start working with serverless. So things change very quickly, and old school people, they don't want to change, and they're gonna stay behind. But to be, the future generation, they need to adapt, and also they need to have grit and courage to step out of their comfort zone and try to learn new things. For instance, I used to work. I went to law school, and then I worked in marketing, and then I decided I'm not happy where I am. I want to learn something new, and I started learning web development. From there, I started learning cloud. From that, Kubernetes, and now who knows what's gonna be next. I know you can't also be jumping from one thing to the other, but like, you know always be open, have an open mindset, because you never know where your next opportunity is.
That's a very valid point, and like I can't that resonate with me because personally I'm
Mhm.
coming from like an accountant background,
Yeah,
and
we
that's
have a
where like
similar
I
background, like, I
yeah.
mean, from coming non-tech to tech.
Yes, so that's where I came on from like years ago, and then like I found a lot of mentoring and a lot of people trying to like get me, and I think like shaping it into like being open to learn and the continuous learning is the one thing that I have seen hold true, because like what's happened yesterday might not happen today. It's for sure not what's gonna happen tomorrow. So you have to always be cognizant of like things will change. You have to accommodate that. You have to understand like how to shape it so it's not a rigid ecosystems that you have to work with. You always have
Mhm.
to be able to like adapt and work with these changes and all of that kind of stuff. So I know that you've been mentoring many people in different shapes, but how what's your perspective on mentoring in general? Like what are the things that like when someone asks you like, hey, can you please mentor me, or like what are the advice that you give them on like where to start, how to start? Can you share with me some of your perspective on that?
Yeah. So I think mentoring is very important. I got to where I am today because I had mentors throughout my career, my journey, and I can say that I even consider you as a mentor, because you've helped me. We've had a lot of conversations, and I'm sure you remember, like, I've asked you, oh, what do you think about me going to this event? Like, I'm very busy. Should I go for it? And this is part of mentoring. And I started my journey doing a lot of coffee chats with people that were already in the industry. So I would reach out to them and explain what I was doing, showing them, some of my projects, and asking if we could have a chat, just to know what was their day to day and their responsibilities. And this really helped me decide where I wanted to go. But one thing, when people come to me and they ask me, "Oh, Julia, can you mentor me?" I say, like, first, if you just go to someone asking to find a mentor, it's not gonna work like that. You need to show them what you are doing to improve, to get into the area, to get in tech. If you just want someone to help you and do all the work for you, that's not how it works. Mentorship means you're putting in the work, and the other person is just there to guide you a little bit, or to give you their opinion, their advice on to what worked for them. But they're not going to do the work for you. You have to do your own work. So that's very important. And that's the same for when people come to me asking for a job or a referral. Like, if you show me that you've been putting in the work and you have projects and you're contributing to open source, or if you're involved in a community, I'm gonna want to help you. And that's same for everyone else. But if you're not doing anything and you want a job to fall in your lap, again, that's not gonna work. So that's the same with mentorship. And I'm always people that know me, I'm an open book. I'm always, available to help others if they have questions. And I also encourage people to, reach out to others in the tech industry. If they see someone that has a role that they aspire, maybe reach out to them and say, what you're going through and that you're curious, you want to learn more. You just need empathy. You need to, talk to people as they are, because everyone is a person at the end of the day. We're not robots. But nowadays with AI, it's, let me go on ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to write a script, and then I'll send that on LinkedIn. No, we can tell that AI wrote that. So, just be human, be yourself, and don't be afraid of asking for help, asking, reaching out to people on LinkedIn or on Slack, or, one of these platforms online.
Like, there are a few things from your response resonate with me. First, like, you have to put the work when you ask for something. It's just, it's
Mhm.
not like, hey, I don't know. So in some occasions you might say I don't know, but like, you have to have a goal. Like, what are you trying to achieve from that? So at least like putting the effort in knowing that person, what they can help you with, have a specific question. Because at the end of the day, mentorship is a win-win relationship, at least to me.
Exactly.
Because like, when I
Mhm.
mentor someone, I want to also learn about something new. I want to understand how
Mhm.
I'm helping you in that. The other thing is like, you mentioned, it's like be human. Like, we all like know what we know, we don't know what we don't know. So it's always like, hey, ask for help. Doesn't matter what you do, like what company you work for, like all of that kind of stuff is just like irrelevant. It's more of like, be genuine about what you're asking for.
Mhm.
And since we are in that topic, where do you think are, like, from the cloud native space, and how are these things are going for, like, some people have you mentored, or like people you work with, and say, this is the next thing, this is the trend, that's where the industry is going? Because every few years we have seen like a few
Yeah.
trends, like
Mhm.
sometimes it's Kubernetes, sometimes it's serverless, sometimes it's Gen AI. Where do you
Mhm.
think is the, in the cloud native space, where do you think is the emerging trend for a leader to think more about and to invest more into?
So I can't not say this. It's definitely AI.
Okay.
We see that everywhere. KubeCons and reinvents, all the events I go to, everyone I talk to is, talking about AI, because AI driven tools, they are making cloud operations more intelligent and automated. So it helps all the teams, things go faster. And whether it's, observability or helping with auto scaling decisions, or security is a big thing that AI helps with. So all of that, AI really integrates well with cloud native workflows, and it redefines how teams are managing and optimizing workloads. So definitely AI is like on the top there. And I would say some other things that I've been seeing at KubeCons and other events is platform engineering, which is a big thing. You know that you work with that every day. So, helping improve the developer experience. I would say also sustainability is something that we don't talk a lot often, but the CNCF also has, I think they have a working group for sustainability, and it's all about optimizing for an energy efficiency and sustainability, because we're seeing so many natural disasters and things going on the planet, and it's because all the things that technology causes. So if we do our 1%, if we do our part, whether it's helping the carbon footprint or anything, it might help. We have to think that we're doing something to help the planet. And we don't talk much about sustainability, but I think it's something that will get big, will increase in the future, and should increase in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you on that AI thing. I think it's been driven into the past like couple of years, and it's been innovating in the space. And this is one of the very fast paced technologies that I have seen myself is like evolving. But sustainability is one of the things I think like there are things that we should consider as like an like as a pillar into your like
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem of thinking, like how like hey, as you cognizant of cost, like operational excellence, all of that kind of stuff, sustainability is one of the things that like it
Yeah.
should be a pillar into your all of that kind of stuff.
It's not
This is actually
yeah, it's not as sexy to talk about sustainability. It's not gonna, bring you more money or anything, but it's definitely important, if especially if we want to think about the future generations that are coming after us.
yeah, true, and definitely like in some matters, like these are the things that like you don't see an immediate ROI of it, so it's hard to visualize and like, hey, if I spend that time on sustainability, like what I get in return. Like definitely you're not getting like an immediate return as you can see, but you're getting like more improvement to the society and the community and the ecosystem in general. So it helps. So like we have to keep it up, or one day it's gonna be like more problematic for the entire like ecosystem in general. And this was great. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and this was amazing. And you mentioned that you mentor people, people can ask you questions. If
Hmm.
anyone want to follow your work and connect with you, where should they go?
I would say the best place is LinkedIn. I used to be on Twitter, or X, but I'm not there a lot anymore. So LinkedIn definitely, or reach out on Slack, on the CNCF Slack, Kubernetes Slack, AWS. If community builders, I'm there as well. But LinkedIn, for sure. And also, just a segue. I have given this talk at KubeCon in 2023 in Chicago about my journey. From the title is from non-tech to CNC to becoming a CNCF ambassador. So if people from another background, or if they're not technical and they dream and they want to become more technical, they want some inspiration, I would tell them definitely to go there, check out the talk. I think I give a lot of good insights and tips into how getting that first step. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me.
That's great. And I definitely can plus one this because this is the first dogs that I have seen for you. And that's where like we started
Hmm.
to connect more about like how to do things. And at the end, like I think like we all should worry about like what really impacting the community and the ecosystem, not just from a matter of like technological pieces,
Yeah,
but also from like diversity, leadership, innovation. Like how are these things shaping like the community? Because at the end of the day, the cloud natives, the open source industry, like everything here is like driven by people. So we have to understand like
exactly.
how to really
Mhm.
invest in people, make
Yeah.
sure they really like our well-being, they understand like how to innovate and all of the kind of stuff. And at the end, like I would love to thank you so much, Julia, for being here. Thank everyone who's going to listen to this episode
Yeah,
and
thank
engage,
you.
and definitely looking forward to connect with you. And definitely we're gonna like meet in KubeCon if you are in KCD New York.
Hmm.
Like many events in the community, we're gonna be around. So like please reach out to Julia and myself if we are around, and feel free to connect with us. But thank you everyone. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Bye, everyone.